You're just kind of backing away and throwing your hands up because maybe she likes doing those things, or she's good at those things, or she criticized me of how I help the kids in the morning one day put their clothes on. And so I'm like, fuck it. I'll just let her do it then if she's going to be so bossy about it. So what happens if a man just kind of throws up his hands and says, fuck it, you do it then? What does that do to the dynamics in the relationship and her point of view of his masculinity and his lack of then frame within the two of them?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a rugged place to be put in. It's almost like she's trying to put you in a box of her judgment or her assessment. So she's kind of created that situation. And if you in just the masculine energy is like, okay, well, my what I have to give is not being received here. I can use my energy elsewhere. She will feel like there's a burden and a weight of almost as if she now has to carry the anchor because she hasn't learned to breathe herself or really allow her own energy to have value and presence as well. And so she's going to feel put upon, and then she's going to project that judgment onto the masculine in her life.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. So there's a frame that we teach in our group coaching and in our one-on-one coaching. It's I see, I believe, I want. So I see that you're jumping on the kids right away. What I want is for you to feel like we're both doing this together. And I believe that the first 30 minutes of our day should be without chores, without responsibility for others. Okay. Now, how you might do that in your life. Well, I have to get up and take care of the kids right away. Okay. Point being, you have to have a frame as a man. What do you see is happening? What do you see? What do you believe? And what do you want? And we teach much more deeply about that. So let's look at the chat. So how do you address with her when others complain about her tone of voice and she doesn't hear how it comes across? Are you able to come in and give us an example of when this happens?
Okay, so a scenario plays out where one of the kids will go, "Hey, mom, when you spoke to me just now, it sounded like you were yelling." And her response is, "Well, no, I was just being firm with you and not wavering. I was just being firm and speaking firmly towards you. I wasn't yelling at." And it hasn't just happened with a child, it's also happened with a coworker, that the coworker goes, "Well, you said no to that situation, and yet it sounded like you were yelling at me when you responded." So
Sure. So does she think that this is an issue?
no, she's like, I'm just being firm. I'm not yelling. I'm just being firm with those that need to respond well in the situation. So the rest of us hear a change in tone, and yet she hears, I'm just being firm with you. I'm not yelling at you.
Mhm.
Sure. I understand. So let's play a game for a second. Let's pretend that you weren't in the picture. Let's pretend that she was a single mom. She had no husband. She could talk however the fuck she wants, right? It's like she can make her bed and she can lie in it. She can do whatever she wants, really. If she doesn't care what her coworkers think, what her kids think, then that is what it is. Now, let's bring you into the picture in this game. Does this bother you? Obviously, yes. That's why you're bringing it up, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
And
and she recently came home and said, "Well, now one of my coworkers has an issue is seeking to go elsewhere now because this has been, in the coworker's opinion, an ongoing issue, and have tried to address it, and yet no, I'm the coworker. I'm going to move on because I can't deal with that anymore."
Right. So let me pull back the curtain a little bit. So you're telling a story about her and the coworker. Are you trying to say that this should be obvious to her that she needs to change? Is that what you're trying to say?
That yes, that she, like, she's heard it from the kids, she's heard it from me, she's heard it from a coworker, and she's not willing to look at it, it seems like. And yet she says, "Oh no, I worked on it with my counselor, and my counselor said everything that I say is just fine."
Right. So let's bring it back to what can you control? You can only control you.
Correct.
And so this is an issue with your relationship with your family, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay. So what do you want? The opposite of her harsh tone of voice is what?
The opposite would be more of a level, not so, it it comes across harsh versus, look, I'm not willing to waver on this.
Sure. So what's the opposite of that? How do you say it in the affirmative? What's the positive way to say that?
The positive way of saying that is, okay, I hear what you're saying. I will take a look at it.
Okay. Which is what? Nice, calibrated, soft, considerate, like those words?
Yes,
Okay. And why do you want that? Why do you want considerate conversation between you and your wife and your kids? Why do you want that?
because it feels more collaborative.
Hmm.
And so, okay, collaboration. And so why do you want collaboration?
Because then it's when two are working well together, we're able to accomplish more. Because
Oh,
I'm of the, when we're working alongside each other, we accomplish more. She's of the, when we divide and conquer, she goes and does a project over there, and I go do a project in another room that she figures divide and conquer, and then we can come back together later.
sure.
Versus, I want to be more collaborative and work on things together, because then we're also spending quality time together.
There. So, right. I want you to write what you're saying right now down. I want collaborative efforts together so we can spend more time together so that we can what grow more powerful than the sum of its parts. There's a man I
Yes.
spoke with, a one-on-one client, who said, I believe in working together builds more than the sum of its parts. That's what, yeah. And you said yes. And it's also what? It's more peaceful. We can be more connected. So the goal here is to use the positive words of your values, literally what we're saying right now. And why you want that is to accomplish some kind of larger goal. And I'm going to get into some slides right now. Another way to say this is she can do whatever she wants. She's going to do whatever she wants or believe in unless she's motivated to change that. And the only way she's going to be motivated to change that is if she feels like she's losing out on something by not changing. And if she's losing out on collaborative connection, if she's losing out on closeness with her family, these things that you value, that's what you're discussing. That's what you're talking about. What would you add? What else what might we as guys not be considering here?
Yeah, and thank you for sharing this. It must be a really hard pattern to watch in her and to see her seem so unaware, especially how it affects your kids. I think maybe a little bit behind the scenes is like her divide and conquer. I'm just being assertive. It makes me think that she has a deeper wounding around feeling her own sense of power or feeling heard, and there's something that she is trying to reclaim in herself about that. Like, I do have power or I will be heard. And so, even illuminating what you already see in her as incredibly powerful. It's, so powerful how you guide our kids to do this project. It's so powerful how you have completed this over here. And this is when you, as the man, as the masculine, like, and I want to do this collaborative energy together for this reason. You're gifting her the part that's aching and hungry for something and trying to get it through the not the helpful ways, and really offering to her healing through your incredible presence, through your incredible energy, through your incredible willingness to take a stand of what's most important here.
That's really well said. Do you feel like you praise those things in her that Cynthia just said, her power in the world, the way she accomplishes things?
Not nearly as much as I probably should.
Yeah, it's big to own that. A huge piece of where and I've been there, and every man watches. A huge piece is when things aren't going well, if it's a slippery slope, if we kind of feel like we're drowning, it's really hard to turn and praise the things that we don't see very often, but we want more of. And so like Cynthia, say that again, the way she may not feel powerful in herself. So to praise those things that he does see within her that he wants more of.
And almost to be a mirror reflection of how she comes across as powerful, how she comes across as um, making great things happen. Even if it feels like you're kind of praising the more masculine side of her because she's like, I'm going to go do it by myself. That's okay, because in seeing that and honoring that in her, it can help her kind of loosen around that and become more feminine. Uh, and even if she can't in the moment seem to receive it, she's gonna drink it in. It is gonna go into that need that is surfacing in unhelpful ways.
Yeah. So if you have more specific questions on this, this is the overview, the concepts of how you approach this, right? But every situation is a little bit different. So if you want to talk more about that, reach out to us. I'm glad that you're here. All right, dude. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's take a look at the chat here. With me, it's the opposite. I'm the one who gets up and packs the kids' lunches, wakes them up, gets them breakfast, etc. Yeah, that would be a great topic for another time, is I feel like I'm doing everything
Yeah.
and it's still not helping.
Yeah.
And why is that? That's a great point. Another one, I've been told I don't do enough. It now appears I do everything and she's given up. Yeah, this yeah, that's a similar kind of topic. Is where does this come from, guys? This comes from if you would just communicate more, right? This is like therapy. If you would just communicate more, if you would just do more dishes, if you would just take chores off her plate, if you would just, do all this butler and housemaid kind of stuff, she would be more sexual and that's not how this works. It's sort of like treating the symptoms, right? If you have a car accident and you're bleeding and half of your arm is ripped off, we don't just put a band-aid on it. We don't want to just clean up the blood that's on the ground. We need to deal with the issues at their heart. And that's what Cynthia and I do here. So let's do that for another topic of I feel like I'm doing everything, but it's not helping. Yeah. Another man said, I set the stage in a marriage therapy session that there should be two premises. One, we are not responsible for each other's happiness. And two, we must love ourselves before being able to truly love the other. My wife and the therapist looked at me like like I had three heads. That was a sign things were not going to go well, and it didn't. Am I off base? No, that's exactly, let's get into our next slides here. That's exactly what actually works, and that's exactly what's healthy. But to say I'm not responsible for the other person's happiness is taboo nowadays, because it goes something like this. I could be a raging asshole and it doesn't make her feel good, right? I can influence her, but I can't force her to be happy. And so there's this confluence of I can influence someone, but I can't make them do something. I can't make them happy. And often a woman often feels trapped in a relationship for lots of reasons that may be real or otherwise. And so you add those things together. He influences me. I don't feel good. She says she feels trapped. And now, wait a minute. What do you mean I'm responsible for my own happiness? What does that mean? So yeah, let's get into that right now. So in relationship, the three levels, there's a different way to say this. Level one is I'm responsible only for me. Right? That's not what Jeff in the chat here, that's not what you said. That's one of the things that you said is I am responsible for me. But level one is I don't care about you. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you say or think or whatever. I'm only responsible for me. Level two is I negotiate what I want from you. So this is a logical, we have responsibilities together, we're parenting together. I take care of myself in level one. In level two, I negotiate what I want from you, but it's not collaborative, it's not open-hearted, it's just a negotiation, it's cold. And this is where most men come to this work is they've tried to do everything for the family, not even for themselves. And they're trying to negotiate with their wife what they want. And it just gets worse and worse and worse because there's no heart, there's no soul, there's no masculine skills. Level three is I'm responsible for myself and I'm responsible for my role in the relationship. And that's pretty much what put into the chat here. Yeah. And said, not off base at all, wholeheartedly agree. Any therapist that wouldn't be on board with that, yikes. Yeah, unfortunately, there's like any field, there's good ones and there's not good ones. And so we got to be careful of that. I've got more to get into right now. We've got about 15 minutes left on this call. If you want to see more of our stuff, greatmenmovemountains.com. And if you're not on the wait list for our book, if you're not getting emails from us to let you know about these calls, if you're not getting emails letting you know about our new videos and teachings, greatmenmovemountains.com/new subscriber, right? Join us. So when we first get together, our attachments influenced by our childhood, not going to go into that now. And then we find some kind of equilibrium. Doesn't mean good, doesn't mean bad. It's just what feels normal to us. And we get into autopilot in relationship. And we think that we have to either come closer together, do more, or do less. And it's this jockeying of, am I doing more? Am I doing less? But what we really want is to give into the third entity, give into the relationship like it's another being, that we do have responsibilities for ourselves, but also for the relationship. And so we want to give into this third entity with intention. And that's what Cynthia and I are talking about right now. So this is an excerpt from the book Dear Lover by David Data. It's I put on page 57 here in my Kindle. And I want to ask Cynthia about this. So this is taking it to the next level, Cynthia. This is like a level 3 question. Okay. He writes, your heart sensitivity can be a great gift to him. So he's speaking to a woman. Her heart sensitivity can be a great gift to him. Her suffering, fully and responsively expressed, can teach him much about how his self enclosed and unfeeling consciousness is painting the entire world. So if this man is level 1, if he's enclosed in on himself, if he doesn't care, if he's not trying to feel into her, if he's just taking care of himself, it's painful. It's painful to her and it's painful to the entire world. And this makes her feel suffering. And in level 3, that she's responsive to that suffering. Okay. And he goes on to say to this woman, your heart's vulnerable strength can inspire his deepest gifts and evoke his commitment to open and give his love to you and the world without fear. So I want to ask you about a woman's vulnerable heart and a woman's heart strength. What do those mean? Can inspire his deepest gifts and evoke his commitment to open and give his love to you and the world without fear, which is the freedom he most deeply desires. But you can only help him if you are open, he says to this woman. So, gentlemen, you only want to be in relationship if you feel more free in that relationship, if it feels like a benefit to you. If it feels like you are less free, or if it's not a benefit, you're going to feel trapped. If she feels like her heart is closed, if you're uncaring, she'll feel trapped if she can't bloom more love. So, Cynthia, what does this mean? Her heart's vulnerable strength can inspire his deepest gifts. What does that mean to you as a level 3 practitioner?
Yeah, that's so incredibly powerful because, firstly, I will say it's very rare that a woman is aware that you in your masculinity and that sacred groundedness that you have want this kind of energy from her. So a lot of women need to be shown, asked, invited, and even expected. Like, you get to share your vulnerability with me. It's a gift. And this, your heart's vulnerable strength, that goes back to the way she wants to get things done or the way she's trying to be assertive. It's like on a raft in the middle of the ocean trying to claim strength, but she's trying to do it in the only way she's seen or knows how in this world. And that's like, I got to be more masculine in myself. And I love this work because it's men like you who can invite women into, oh, do you know how much strength there is in this world of feminine emotion, this gift of this open heart? We're talking about freedom. That's when a woman gets to fully relax and understand her own power versus this very closed, snappy, trying to assert herself over others, clinging to the idea that she needs to be more compartmentalized, masculine, and less in her heart.
So why does she think, or why does a woman that's, let's say a man's inviting her emotions, but it seems like it's just nasty and blaming and accusative and no responsibility. What is that overcorrection about? What is that expression about?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just human beings feeling vulnerable for any of us is a really courageous task. And I'm sure she's stored in her body and her memory times that she has been vulnerable. Maybe it's even been with you, or maybe it was in relationships long before you where it felt like there were negative consequences. So she's overcorrecting for times when she felt she was too weak, and thus had to feel maybe less than, less powerful, or not seen as a strong, valuable entity, energy.
Yeah. Well, and maybe it is effective for her to go and be more kick-ass in her job and like a man. And, we've talked about this a lot, which is that's how our capitalistic society kind of is. And that's not a bad thing. It's we need to go kick ass a lot of times, right? So we can understand that. But when she gets home, just like when we get home, it's a completely different ball game. It's a whole new set of rules. So what is this whole new set of rules here, just to give us a peek? So her vulnerable strength, what if she has no idea that her strength is vulnerable, or her vulnerability can be a strength? What if she has no idea that her vulnerability with him, in relationship with him, is a gift? What if she has no idea about that? How is she going to be exposed to that ever then?
So, like, going back to the topic of this call of, yes, you as a man get to put yourself first in relationship. You get to take care of your masculine energy. You get to be in your own breath and your own being. You do not get to or have to run scattered in the wind to someone else's demands. Coming with that kind of energy, no matter how she's reacting and responding, and then even saying verbally, hey, you sharing with me right now is such a gift. Even if it's like the angry bitter that she's sharing. Hey, this is a gift. I really love when you share with me. I love when you share the things that are tough. I love the things that you share when things are sad. So it's like you're painting a new landscape on the painting for her to see of your relationship, of where your relationship can go. Uh, Almost like as a canvas of art on the wall of your home.
Yeah, that's well said. You're learning here what's possible, and how you usher her into that is what we teach in our groups and our coaching, and what your questions are about. So we have about 5 more minutes left today on this call. What question do you have right now? So raise your hand in Zoom or unmute yourself and come on in. What question do you have about this while we have Cynthia on this call? He's great. You all have amazing sex lives. There's no problems at home at all. Everyone's fucking tip top. Yeah. Okay. Great. Nobody has any questions? Yeah.
Oh no, I'm just scratching my head.
Well, you can't unmute yourself and not get called on.
I was going to say something ridiculous.
Do it. Do it.
No, it's all a disaster, right? So it's if you know when it's all a disaster, you don't know where to start. But I mean, I just know in my own life, and you're talking about putting me first, and I obviously don't know how to do this because even in the midst of a separation, I'm doing. It's not like I started doing all this stuff because of the troubles in the marriage. I was always the one. I've cooked every meal in this household for 15 years. I've always packed the kids' lunches. I always made the kids breakfast and lunch. So it's not some new thing. But I find myself like I'm constantly at other people's service. I have been for a long time. This predates the divorce bomb. But it's so big. It's like in 5 minutes, you're not going to begin to it's 3 minutes now.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question. That's fine. So let me ask you a question based off of this. There's three things here: spiritual practice at its core, and whatever that means to you, daily accomplishment, and long-term aims for your own self. Do you feel you are on the pulse of this for your own self, regardless of her, regardless of your kids, your family, for your own self? Do you do
Really?
daily spiritual practices? Do you feel like you're getting accomplishments done daily for your own self, and you have an eye on long-term goals for yourself?
No, and no.
Okay, so let's start there. We've got 2 minutes. How could why is it no,
Well,
no,
first thing
no?
to
How can we
start
turn
with,
that around?
I think the first thing to start with is a spiritual practice. Why do I think that? Because I'm going to take a screenshot of this, if you don't mind.
Please.
The first thing, because that I can start tomorrow. I don't have, I mean, as it just sort of, or today, but I think it's a better thing in the morning. I mean, so much of my focus, especially since the divorce bomb, but even before that, has been on one thing I can do is take care of the kids, and that's what I've really been laser focused on. But, so the long-term project, the daily accomplishments, all of that most of that surrounding the kids right now. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's or a good thing. It's just the way it is. And yes, I don't really have a question. It's just, it's such a large thing. And I spent so many years really focused on the kids. I mean, of course I've got my job, but
Right. So, right. And I was there. I think pretty much every man that comes to this work has been in that spot too, which means you haven't put your own oxygen mask on even yet. Or maybe that's what you're practicing now, is how to do that.
well, I mean, way back before the kids were born. Yeah, I was taking, anyway, I don't want to get into my whole history, But yeah, maybe just listening to this and having it drilled into me, the obvious fact that I got to do some stuff for myself. I mean, is
Yeah, absolutely. This is intellectual, you're learning. This is emotional, you're exploring your own self through these concepts. And if you've done something physical today, you're really hitting 3 big points. And the way I do this, we call this the Morning Kingly Plan in our private group, which is what's one thing I'm grateful for? Just breath in my lungs, the beautiful place where I live, something like that, right? Something emotional that's positive about myself. Like I know I'm striving toward how I want to serve the world. Something small, maybe for yourself. I'm striving toward helping my kids have the greatest life possible. That's an emotional recognition of yourself. And then something physical, guys, right? If you're not lifting weights 3 days a week, what the fuck are you doing? Like if you're not, if you're not taking a walk at least 3 days a week, if not every day, what are you doing? Right? You got to be doing, or if you're not doing pull-ups and calisthenics 3 days a week, something. I'm talking not just you, but everybody. If you're not doing something physical for yourself, you're really leaving something on the table for your own self as a man. So intellectual, emotional, physical, right? And you all started here. And I appreciate you being here. Good stuff. Definitely email us, reach out to us if you have questions, check out our stuff. Love to see you next time. Awesome. Thanks, Cynthia.
so
Bye, guys.